is. I have in the studio with me Randall Hancock. Now, he's homegrown, and a lot of you'll know him.
Yeah.
He's from Ripley. I think been here all your life, hasn't you?
Not yet.
Not yet.
But
Most of it,
yeah.
most of it. And Randall is a part of a group of, I'll sure say it wrong, watch me.
Sons of Confederate veterans.
All right, I knew I'd say it wrong. Tell us what this organization does.
Basically, Sons of Confederate Veterans is an organization that was founded back about 1890s. Basically, we're people who love our heritage, our Southern heritage, what our forefathers did. We are all sons, grandsons, great-great-grandsons of Confederate veterans who fought in the war between the states. We try to perpetuate history, our honor, our heritage. We have several projects every year where we do things that help the community, many times clean up old cemeteries, put up historical markers. Basically, we're just a bunch of like-minded people who enjoy being together with our families, and we have very big family values.
Okay, this, I heard somebody call this CVS, something else. What does that stand for? So I don't even have the letters right.
The what now?
That CVS, Confederate.
Now we have I'm not familiar with that. We do have a UDC chapter here, which is
Okay.
United Daughters of the Confederacy.
But it's not all in Ripley, is it?
Oh, no. We're, as far as SCV goes, we are nationwide.
There it is.
I don't think there's a state anywhere.
I knew there were some letters.
That is not, that doesn't have a Sons of Confederate Veteran camp in it. Even in the northern states, of course, there's a lot of transplanted Confederates living in up north of them Yankees. But we have members all over the country. We're a very large organization, very old organization, and we're not out with any agenda. We're proud of what our forefathers did, and if anybody has a Confederate ancestor, we're more than welcome. We would love to have you in our camp. You can call me or Marty Hubbard, our commander. We're right now with the largest civic organization in Tippah County. We have, I think, 85 or 88 members and 3 or 4 new ones that are on the roster now too. And we've grown a great deal because people are beginning to look at their heritage and want to know what their family did.
Yeah, a lot of folks are doing these family trees and genealogy researches.
My wife is very big into it, and she has actually researched my family tree back to 68 BC, which that's a long way back. And with the internet nowadays, and if you've got the right equipment, it's work, but you can, and it's just fascinating to do it because I found people that in my family tree. I didn't really realize it. I knew about my great-great-grandfather in the Civil War just from stories I'd heard when I was a kid, and not many of those. But I have had an ancestor, or several of them, who fought in every war our country's ever had, and I had no clue to that. My roots go back to Scotland on one side and Cherokee on the other side. But I've learned a lot about myself, and I think it's made me a better person because of it. I've learned about a lot of other people and their ways and things, and it's really educated me. Yeah.
Well, I was curious about that. Well, you have to have a relative, and I understand you have to document that. How do you?
You do. There's a lot of ways to go about it, especially with the internet now. It makes it easier. You can go through the archives in Jackson, Mississippi. If you have a relative who was in the Civil War, they can give you his all his records, his military records. Like my great-great-grandfather, I had no idea really what he did. I knew that he was in the Civil War because of a couple of stories I'd heard when I was just a kid. And when I got to researching him, I found out that he was captured at Fort Donelson in 1862. He was a prisoner of war at Indianapolis, Indiana for 6 months. And then at that time, the custom was after 6 months, they would parole him. And they were supposed to go home and not go back to the Confederacy, but all of them did. And then he fought on through the war, and he was at Chickamauga, he was at Missionary Ridge, many major battles, Battle of Franklin, Stones River, which was in the Franklin area, Murfreesboro, and he was in several different units. He started out in the 23rd Mississippi, Company F, And what a lot of people don't know, and this is one of the things that really amazed me, the Methodist Church organization during the Civil War worried that they would lose all their ministers, because the Methodist ministers would turn into captains or colonels, and they would organize their own company and go to war. My great grandfather's colonel was a Methodist preacher over on Blackland, and that's where he lived, was in Blackland, over in Prentice County now, which then is Tishomingo County. But this war was fought by people who believed in what they were doing. They weren't in it for any real hatred or agenda or anything like that. They were basically, in their minds, they were defending their homeland from a foreign invader.
Protect
They were protecting their families and their homes. They really
their
were.
way of life.
That's right.
You know, if you go over toward, I know everybody that's got kids has carried them to Shiloh and over to Corinth, and there's a lot of Civil War monuments and signs and stuff about. A lot of it took place over there in Corinth.
Yep, they are. Matter of fact, Corinth right now has developed a pretty good driving tour of their battlefield, which the Battle of Corinth, a lot of people don't realize it was a major battle of the Civil War. It was fought over, as a matter of fact, the Battle of Shiloh was fought because of Corinth, which was Cross City at the time, and it was where two railroads crossed, the Memphis and Charleston and the Gulf, Ohio, the GM&O, Gulf Mobile and Ohio, I'll get it right in a minute. And we have a very strong history and heritage here. And, you know, I grew up in this country, and I had no idea that Ripley changed hands during the Civil War 8 times. It was, I mean, our courthouse here was burned one time, but it was in different hands 8 different times. And most people don't. Most people really have never been taught. When we went to school, you know, we were in our Mississippi history book. I think in my 6th, 7th grade, we took Mississippi history. There's 2 pages about probably the most trying and monumental event of American history. You know, a lot of people don't realize this. There were more Americans killed in the Civil War than every other war that we've ever had, including World War II. There were 620,000 American men died in the Civil War. And in the SCV, we don't like to call it the Civil War, because we don't think there's that much civil about it. But it was a war against Northern aggression, is what we call it. But still, a Civil War. But if you start looking at what our people did, North and South, it was terrible times, and a lot of men died for what they believed. And the thing it was, they could have been, if they had met each other on the street, could have been very good friends. You know, that was the sad part of it.
It is.
It really
is. And you know, some of them were even like brothers, and one of them would go to one side, one of them would go to. That's sad. There's
many cases where that happened. I know of one case, and I don't remember the names of the 2 families, but the 2 families started out of these two veterans. One was a Northern veteran, and the other was a Confederate. And they met in Austin, Texas, and one had lost a left leg in the war, and the other had lost a right leg. And they actually met, and this is a true story, they actually met in this shoe store on the same day. And they started talking, and one bought a right shoe and the one bought the left. They bought a pair of shoes. So every year on this day, same day every year, they would meet and buy a pair of shoes. And it turned out, as they grew and their families grew, their daughters and sons actually married. And they started 2 families out of those 2 old veterans because they wanted to buy a pair of shoes. It's kind of a humorous story, but it's a true story.
One of the things that y'all do, like you mentioned that you've cleaned up a lot of cemeteries,
We
old
do.
cemeteries. Are these that have Confederate soldiers or just old
Some of them do,
cemeteries?
some of them don't. Right now we're involved in a cemetery over in Benton County, where the Beck family, who was General Nathan Bedford Forrest's mother's family. There's a couple of Civil War soldiers' graves there, but most of it's just this old family. And of course, if you're from this area and you're into Civil War, Nathan Bedford Forrest is probably the greatest thing around. But we found this old cemetery, and when we first got to it, we walked up in it and didn't even realize we were there. We had to cut back until we finally found a tombstone. Well, now that little cemetery, and it's on private property, it's sitting, and it's not something that we can control. It's just something we wanted to do. This old cemetery now is a cleaned off little plot of ground, probably about a half-acre ground. It has about 20 graves in it, and we cleaned it up, restored a lot of the stones, and right now we're in the process of putting a cedar rail fence around it. And it's basically something, we're not doing it because any money we would make, anything like that, but it's just basically we're honoring those people who lived a life that they believe was right, and most of them were God-fearing family people, and it's just something we think we owe them.
But if they don't have a Confederate,
No,
so you still,
we would still
you're
do
still
it.
interested?
Oh, yeah, we're interested in any kind of
Because
history.
it's for the community.
Yeah, it's for the community.
community.
We do that. It's like the United Daughters of Confederacy, the UDC here. If you look around the country, almost every monument, marker in this area were erected by the UDC. Some of them going back as far as like our Confederate soldier cemetery on the courthouse. The UDC put that up in 1910, and I think at that time it cost something like $120,000 to put up. And think about $120,000 in 1910 times. A bunch of ladies got out and made the money up and put that statue up. But they still done a lot the historic markers you see.
That's a lot of bake sales and
That's a
quilting.
lot. It surely is. It is.
Whoop.
The ladies we have here in our UDC camp, they have several good charities. They do St. Jude and Le Bonheur. They've got they collect toys for kids. They a lot of times on like Thanksgiving, they feed the sheriff's department, police department. Just they do all sorts of community involvement, and they work harder than we do. I'll be honest with you. They really do.
But you have to have a relative. That's
You have to have a
Confederate
relative,
soldier.
and you have to document it. And it's now the UDC is a little harder than we are. They
All right,
they
then.
basically have to have a picture of the tombstone.
If you wanted to document it, how would you go about it?
You can go on the internet. You go into Ancestry.com is a very good site. I think it costs $12 a month to be a member of it. However, you can go into Roots Web, which has Soldiers and Sailors Systems.com, and it won't give you all the information you need, but it will give you rosters. If your family member was in a group, it will show where he was and what group he was with, and then from there you can begin to research. Say he was in the 23rd Mississippi, as my great grandfather was. Well, from there I began to research what battles the 23rd Mississippi were in, and then as I found out, not only was mine in the 23rd, and many times the 23rd was part of the 32nd. It was part of the 9th. I mean, and so it can get to be, it's actually a fun thing to do because you get interested in it and you find yourself at night instead of doing things that you normally do, you're in there in front of your computer trying to find where they were. It takes up a lot of time, but it's a lot of fun.
Well, it would.
It is really, and it gives you it can give you a lot of pride. And in my family, I've got a lot of pride in. I had 3 great grandfathers that were in the Civil War. Had many great uncles and great cousins, and I have found those over the years. But then again, if you really want to get into it deep, go to Jackson or contact the Mississippi Archives at Jackson. They will bend over backward to help you find anything that you can. They're very, very good at it. They can send you your ancestors' military records, and you can find out all the information you need. As far as that goes, if someone wants to be a member of the SCV, get in touch with me, get in touch with Marty Hubbard. Mike Malden at Walden is our adjutant. We'll help you. We'll put you on the right path to find what you need. And my wife right now, and Mike Malden's wife, Pam Malden, I think the two of them could find anything. I mean, they're very good at it. But we will help you get started, and we'd love to have anybody that'd like to be a member of our group.
Well, I tell you, it's a lot to say for somebody, because now finding something on the internet's not that simple.
It's not. Sometimes it's not. But if you get to going down the right avenue, it's not that hard. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it really is.
That's because you've done it a whole lot.
If you've got the love for it, you've got to have a love for it. You really do.
You've done it a whole lot. You get on the internet, and some of that stuff's real confusing.
It is sometimes. It really is. It's the thing to do is get on it and start typing in and punching buttons. If this doesn't work, go somewhere else. Sooner or later you'll find it. It's there. It's there. It really is.
Oh, I'm sure it's anything you want to find's on there, but
yeah.
finding it.
There's things on there you don't want to find too.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, I understand you're the chaplain.
I am the chaplain of our camp. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but they nominated me and elected me to that in our camp, and we do our camp democratically, just like any other organization. We have officers, and I am the chaplain. My job is basically, if anybody needs anything, anything I can help them with spiritually, I try to do it. We start every meeting we have with a prayer. That's my job to do that. We end every meeting with prayer. we're not a religious organization,
Uh-huh.
but we have very religious roots. I mean, we
Oh.
believe in family values. We kind of believe, the less government we have interfering in our lives, the better off we are. And just like I think almost everybody does today. And we're not in any kind of hatred, and I hope
No.
nobody thinks we are, because it's not part of us.
Mhm.
But it's basically a heritage group to learn about our family, and basically and we're all good friends. I mean, it's great fellowship. We meet once a month at Country Inn too, and we'll meet over there about 6 o'clock, eat supper. Our meetings start at 7, and anybody would like to come to our meetings, you don't have to be a member. Just show up. We're glad to have you. If you have any questions, you ask anybody there, and everybody's just eager to tell you. I mean, and right now, I think we got 85 or 88 members. And when I first started with it a few years ago, we were meeting in a side room at the Tippah County Museum. And if you hadn't been to our Tippah County Museum, you need to go to it. It's a very, very good experience.
Yes, it is.
And now we've grown from that little room with about 20 people to where we are. And we'd love to have 185. I mean, we're in a bigger place now, but if we outgrow it, we'll get another one. So
I think say where you gonna go.
I don't know. We'll find a place.
As I know, when I went, there was standing room
There,
only.
yeah, we filled it up. We really did. In the last year or so, we've probably, I don't know the exact facts. Mike Mauldin, our adjutant, has those, but I figure in the last year we've probably gained 20 to 25 members. And our SCV camp is different. A lot of SCV camps, the ladies in the family don't have much to do with it. Ours, the wives, the children. We want everybody there that we can get. It is a family-oriented thing. At our meetings, we always have good speakers that are historians. This past time, we had Dr. Beck from Columbus, who had written, I think, 9 books on the Civil War. He was a history professor at, I'm trying to remember, I think it was someplace in Virginia. And I know at one time he was a history professor in Ohio. And we have people of that quality come and talk to us. And we just have a really big time being with our friends and people that we know.
Really, this would be a plus for these young men and ladies that are studying the Civil War
It
and
really is.
history.
It really is.
You learn things that you don't hardly learn in school. I noticed he was telling about how this man was wounded.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I attended a meeting to see what I thought I'd learn a little bit. I ain't that right, but he was telling about how this man was wounded and told a little about him and his family. That makes it more real to
It
me.
really does.
And it would be good for these students. If you have a student, think about bringing them.
One thing that really delights me is when I see a teenager, 10-year-old kid, something like that, come in, and you can watch them. The older people may not be that interested, but young people, when they come in and they begin to dig into this and hear people talk about it, and first thing you know, they're reading a book about it. They eat it up, and that really, I really love that, because I know, I'm 56 years old. I'm going to be gone someday. I want our southern children to understand it and pass it on to their children, and that's what we're about. We try to pass it down. So okay, let's don't let this be forgotten, because it was a chapter in our history that was in some ways horrible, but in other ways it was a very honorable thing. And men gave their lives for what they believed in.
They did, and it amazed me. I differ with you on that, because I was filming this and I was looking at people's faces, and the adults just were, so I was surprised everybody was so. You could hear a pin drop in that room.
Yeah.
Because nobody made noise or whispered or talked, or I kind of think we ought to get a little of that into our church, I'll tell you, they were really interested in what this man said.
Well,
they really do.
The adult people, really, they're there because they love that, and they're very reverent about it. And
They sure are.
But I watch
sure
the children's faces, and most of the adults know a little about this, especially the ones in our camp. But the children, you can see the light in their eyes when, whoa, I never heard this. I never knew this. And there's so much history, not just about the Civil War. There's so much of our history in America that we were never taught in school or college either. I mean, it's out there if you want to research it, but it's a lot of truth out there that for some reason has never been brought to light, and it needs to be. I mean, we're a proud country. America's the greatest country in the world, And we need to be proud of it and stand up for it. And to do that, we need to know what he did, where it's been.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what we're about.
And we need to, my feeling on the Civil War, of course now, I'm not from here, but my feeling on the Civil War is we need to pay attention to what caused it and
Right.
what brought it
That's
on,
correct.
that we don't do it again.
That's correct. Oh, yes, that's sure.
It's definitely a mistake, and we don't need to do it again.
Well, if I've always heard, and I don't know who said this, but it may always make sense. If you don't know your history, you're destined to recreate it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, our Civil War was basically caused. It was an economic war. The South was growing cotton. The North got a power loom business. They began to build factories, and England wanted to buy our cotton for a lot more money than the North wanted to pay. We said, okay, we're going to sell this cotton to England. Well, our government, which was at that time in control by the North, because that's where the population center was, they says, okay, if you do, we're going to put a tariff on it. Well, I mean, that'd be like you if you had an egg farm and you're making money, and one person wanted to buy your eggs for $5 a dozen, and another guy says, you can't sell them to him because I'm going to pay you $1 a dozen, but you got to sell them to me. That's what it all started over it.
Mm-hmm.
It's an economic thing. I mean, the economics controls so many things even today.
It does.
And it's caused so many wars. I mean, World War II basically was caused by economics.
That's right.
I mean, that's what really got the whole thing started. And I guess it goes back to dollars.
Well, it does. It does. We're going to have to break for a
Okay.
commercial. Tony, cut us to a commercial. With a little corner, I'm glad you stayed with us. I'm here in the studio with Randall Hancock, and we're discussing the Sons of the Confederate. Tell me right.
Sons of Confederate Veterans.
I
For
don't have
short,
that
for
memory.
short, SCV.
Okay. Do we not have something in Tippah County? I believe it's Bryce's Crossroads.
Bryce's Crossroads, it's actually in the edge of Union in Prentiss County now. At the time of the Civil War, Bryce's Crossroads was in Tippah County.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't realize it, but Tippah County, most of Benton County was Tippah County at that time. Tippah County went down almost to New Albany. It was a very large county, and then in 1870 they divided up all the counties and made them smaller. Tishomingo County consisted of Prentiss, Alcorn, and Tishomingo counties. And but Bryce's Crossroads was one of the greatest battles probably of the Civil War. It was a very decisive battle. Nathan Bedford Forrest took his men and went against a far superior force, and because of his fighting tactics, he hurt the Union very bad. General Sturgis was going from Memphis to meet Sherman. They were starting in on the Atlanta campaign, trying to work their way there, and they came down through Ripley, and as a matter of fact, they tore Ripley up pretty good when they got here. They mistreated a lot of people, and they went on through Dumas, and they got there. They burned a couple of houses. They were just basically taking the country. They were taking all the food they could find. And Nathan Bedford Forrest found out some way they were coming, so he went to head them off. He sent his small forces against them as they were marching down basically what is Highway 370 now. And he would send a few men to hit and run. Well, this was like in June, and it was around 100 degrees, and they're walking down dirt roads, and the mud was there. And he would run up and hit them, and of course have a little fight. Well, they would chase him on foot. His men would go back. He did this all day, harassing them, and by the time they actually got to the Bryce's Crossroads area, they were basically exhausted. And to make a long story short, and I can talk on Bryce's Crossroads all day. To make a long story short, when the Union Army went back from there, they were limping all the way back to Memphis, which he followed them. And General Sturgis, one of his colonels, told him if he would give him I don't remember how many men, but if you'll give me this many men, I'll go back and fight for us. And General Sturgis said, if Mr. Forrest will leave me alone, I'll leave him alone. And when they came back through Ripley, they were leaving their wounded to the same people that they had just mistreated. And the Mississippi people, being what they are, they took them in. And there's a couple of houses here in Ripley right now. They're private homes that were used as hospitals. And they were Union soldiers put in those hospitals that had got wounded at the Battle of Bryce's Crossroads. And but Mississippi people have always been that way. They have always been magnanimous, and hospitality has been in their blood. That's one of the biggest secrets we have in Mississippi is the hospitable people that we have here, and the generosity of our people here. Anything in Mississippi, and especially this part that you need, if you let people know you need it, somebody's going to help you with it. Whether it's money or work, we have the greatest people in the world, and probably the best kept secret in the world. We're right here in our little corner of the world where people love each other. And that's to me, that's the greatest thing you can find.
You know, I'm not from here, and I find that to be true.
It is. I've traveled for the last 20 years in my work. I've been a sales rep, and I've traveled all over the United States. And when you go somewhere else and you look at the way people are, just in general, man, you're so happy to get back to Chaplin
That's
County.
right.
I always
That's
thought
right.
I always thought when I was a
Absolutely.
young man I'd move away from here, and I've had an opportunity several times to do that. But something about it keeps drawing me back to Chaplin County. I mean, it's a great place to live. We first moved here. We came from Alcorn County. My dad's a minister, and he came here to pastor a church, 1964, and he's still pastoring that same church 46 years later. And he's just so mean he won't let them run him off. But when we came here, an old man named Sam Barber told him, my dad didn't like it here. He wanted to go back to Corinth. And he told him, he said, preacher, if you stay here long enough to wear out one pair of shoes or drink 40 gallons of Chaplin County water, you'll never leave. And I guess it's true because we're still here.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
home.
Well, I tell you, Tipp County just can't be beat.
It
These
can't.
are the
It can't. We got the greatest place
most
in the world.
caring people in
They
the
are.
world
They
live
really
in
are.
Tipp County.
Yep.
And it just, you know, I realize that we get things that these big towns have, but we get it last.
Well, yeah.
They had drugs for ages now. Well, we got it, but
Mm.
we didn't get it, you know, we enjoyed all the
Mm.
years before it got here. And I'm glad of that. They think we're behind the times. Well, I'm glad.
We need to be
I'm
real.
glad.
We need to be real careful though, about letting this secret out because people start coming in from other
That's
places.
true.
Spoil
That's
it for all
true,
of
'cause
us.
That's the truth. That's the truth. Cannot beat Tipp County.
No,
Sure
you can't.
can.
It's the best place in the world. It really
And
is.
there's something special about, I tell them every week, there's something special about these homegrown people.
It is.
People
It really
that
is.
were just here and you went to school with them and you've known them all your life.
Mhm.
Of course, I'm not one of them, but there's something special about it. I'm not from here.
Well,
I'm
well,
sure
well,
not.
people who move into here,
Mhm.
after they're here a little while, I don't know what it is. I guess the blood rubs off on them. It's just, everybody
You
gets
just don't want to leave.
You
That's
don't want
what
to leave.
it
You really
is.
don't.
I sure don't.
I've never heard.
sure
I've
don't.
never heard of anybody retiring to the north.
Mm-mm.
They all
No.
retire and come south.
No.
I'm very proud of our Southern
Well,
heritage because we've got a lot to be proud of.
Life here is more laid back and comfortable.
It really is. It really is.
And like I say, people care about people. That's the southern way.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they say, southern hospitality.
It is, it really is.
Truly, they don't have it other places. They
No.
really don't.
No. People
Oh.
here will give you the shirt off their back. I mean,
Mhm.
if you're in trouble, well, Mississippi pretty much the whole state's that way. I mean, you look at Hurricane Katrina when it hit. I mean, how many people from here, from all over the state, went down there and worked? I mean, there were thousands
That's
of
right.
people.
That's right.
I mean, for months
Absolutely.
they were working shifts. I mean,
That's true.
other states didn't do that. I mean, and I don't put Louisiana down, but look at New Orleans. They're
Yeah.
still not built back.
That's true.
And
That's
because
true.
they were waiting on the government to do it, and
Mhm.
our people basically they pulled up their bootstraps and went to work.
Went down there and did it. You
and
gotta do what you gotta do.
You gotta do. That's right.
Yeah, you do.
It really is.
And I noticed too, this oil spill thing.
Mhm.
You know, our people were right on
That's
that.
right. That's
Yeah.
right.
These guys
Yeah.
from Mississippi get with it.
Yeah,
They were right
they,
on
they
it.
really did. I mean, before you know it, I think they had 323 boats to go out with the entrapment devices to,
Uh-huh.
overnight. I mean,
Mhm.
these weren't people that were being paid.
That's right.
These were people. There's a need here. We're going to do it.
That's
Get it
right.
done. When we get through, we'll talk about it and go on down the road. And that, and that's the way Mississippi people are.
That's true.
And I
That's
love
true.
them. I've been here I've been in Mississippi since I was born. I was born in Corinth. And I hope when they lay me down, I'll be buried right here in Chaplin County somewhere.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, it really is, it's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
The
It really
southern,
is.
they
Yeah.
pick each other up and
They
help
really-
each
they
other when.
they
when-
really do.
I've
Really
never
do.
seen that before.
They really do.
But I was at this meeting and I saw how excited you were and you were volunteered to come. If you need something done, what you do is you call Randall and you say, I volunteer you to
They
go.
volunteered me to do this, and I'm really glad they did. I was happy to go. I really
I
was.
figured out what that chaplain means.
It's the guy.
It's a flunky.
It's a flunky. That's exactly what it is. If there's anything needs doing, get Randall. He'll
Get
do
Randall
it.
do it. Get
And I'm
Randall do it.
happy to do it because I enjoy it. I really do. It's a passion of mine. I really enjoy it.
And when I went, like I say, it was like a history lesson,
Mhm.
but I was really interested in that old gun. Now, I like old things.
Oh, I do too.
I like
I do too.
antiques.
do
I
too.
like. I just, we walked around the restaurant and saw the old gas stove, and that's my thing. I
Yeah,
like that.
It is.
But that gun is amazing to me.
That was a very nice 1851 Colt, and Guns are a passion of mine. I don't know why, but all my life I've had, especially old guns. I've loved them. I've studied them, and I can take about any old gun and look at it and tell you a story about it and where it came from and where it was used, and most times I can tell you the value of it. The other night, that gun didn't belong to me that I showed everybody. It actually belonged to our commander, Marty Hubbard. And we have a little show and tell every meeting. Somebody will bring a relic or whatever, and you got
That's
3 minutes
going for.
to show something to the group and just something of interest. And he brought this gun, and he said, I want to show it, but I want you to do it because I don't know enough about it. And so I was happy to do it, and I hope we enlighten some people. Some of the equipment those guys had, it was primitive by today's standards, but they really made it work well. My mom will come over to my house, and in my office I have a lot of relics on the wall hanging up, and some of it's red rusty that's been dug up out of the ground. I've got old guns, this and that and the other. And she'll look in there and she'll say, I don't know what you want with all this junk. But to me, those are treasures. I wouldn't take anything for them. But
Yeah, I'm like that. I like the old things.
I do
Tables.
too. I really do.
Oh, I got this big wood, it's Heinzlick era. And it's a bookcase and got a storage thing on it. And I just had a fit to bring that
You and my wife would really get along great.
Oh, yes.
If she gets into an antique furniture, any place with
Oh,
antique
yeah.
furniture,
Oh, yeah.
you might as well sit down for a while because she's
Me
going to
too.
look around.
Me too.
She can't buy it usually, but she
Well,
really
I
loves
brought
it.
this home, and I've just, nothing to me but to bring it to the house, and Tate looked at me and said, what'd you want that old wood shelf?
That's about the way I am with some of that stuff. One of the greatest gifts that I gave my wife in the last several years, a few years ago, when I was traveling on the road, I found a Hoosier cabinet. I don't know if you know what a Hoosier cabinet is,
I
but
do.
a Hoosier cabinet, my grandmother had one. It's basically an old wood and metal cabinet. Nothing fancy at all, but it was something they had in the 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
And I found one in a little antique store up in Jackson, Tennessee, and it was scratched up and dinged up. And I bought it for her for Christmas and brought it home. And she was the happiest I think I've ever seen anybody. Of course, she wouldn't restore it in any way at all.
Oh, no.
It's just like it was.
Uh-uh.
And I know my mom and dad came over, my sister and their family came over during Christmas, and we had dinner there one night. And they were talking to her, said, you can paint that, And she said, I don't know, And they couldn't understand why she wouldn't want to paint that old relic, but it's a beautiful old piece, and she loves it.
Yes, yes.
Most people probably wouldn't, but to her, it's gold, And if you love it, that's what it's all about.
That's right.
It really is.
That's right. This life, we do what we enjoy.
It really
We
is.
really do. Do what we enjoy. But y'all have a lot on the back burner, don't you? A lot of things coming up.
We have a lot of things coming up. I wish I'd brought some dates with me. The weekend next month, which will be first Monday weekend, I don't know the date, I think it may be the 8th or
It'll
9th.
be, Marty's supposed to email me, and we'll put it on
Put
the
it on.
tentative.
We're having a group come from Texas to present the plaque of honor to a Tippah County veteran who fought in the Civil War. His family's in Texas now. They're coming here, and they're going to put it at the museum. During that time in the ceremony, they're going to fire some cannon, actual authentic Civil War cannons. So if someone will come and look at it, it'd be very good. Right now, there's 2 or 3.
Where they gonna fire them at?
Well, they actually are going to have to take them out of the city limits to do it. We could, if we fired them in the city limits, it would cost us $2,500 for the insurance.
And
So
and to repair the damages.
So, well, there's not going to be, of course, there's going to be no damage. It'll be a blank fire. But we have our historian is a guy who lives out here on Peoples Road, and they're going to take them out to his house and fire them. But everybody is going to be welcome to be there and enjoy it. And if you've never seen a Civil War cannon fire,
Fantastic.
when you fire a 12-pound Napoleon, you can hear it for 5 or 6 miles. And it's a nice sight to see, and they will fire it several times. And if somebody's really interested, it'll be good. In November, they'll have a battle reenactment. I believe it's November at Farmington, Mississippi, which will be the Battle of Farmington. And it's a beautiful place. Or maybe October. Someone called me, and I'll get you the right dates on it. Should have brought those with me. We've got several things going on in the near future, and if anybody's interested, get in touch with me, and I'll be glad to get you dates and times. And any of this stuff that we have, there's no admission charge. It's just basically we're passing on something that we love to, some of our history.
If they, Yeah, Marty Hubbard's supposed to send me an email, we'll get it on the
Okay,
tidbits.
do that for, we sure appreciate
We
it.
do the tip of tidbits, we
Right,
try
right.
to, keep everybody informed on what's going on around. And y'all having that, reenactment over at Corinth too, aren't you?
There's one coming up soon, well, that's at Farmington, that's just,
Farmington.
that, it's
Well,
Corinth.
what do they do with these reenactments?
Basically, they reenact a battle. I mean, you have people come from all over the United States. Reenactment is a very, very big activity. I have tried not to get into it because I know if I do, I'm going to spend way more money than I can afford. But people come, they're in period dress, they set up camps like a Civil War camp would have been. A lot of people don't realize this, but in the Civil War, a lot of the wives followed the camps. They would come and be in the
No,
camp.
I didn't realize
and,
that.
on north and south.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the wives would come and they would do things like laundry. They would be at the camps, live there with their husbands, and then when we went out to the battle, they would be there when he came back. When they struck camp and moved, they were camp followers. They went along, and there will be women there in period dress. There'll be soldiers there. They'll have period weapons. They actually, line up. They do skirmishes. You'll have some cavalry officers there on horses. A lot of shooting, a lot of smoke, a lot of noise, but a lot of fun. The weird thing about, and the hardest thing about doing a reenactment, when you get everybody together to do it, you've got to have northern soldiers and you've got to have southern soldiers. And even the northern soldiers want to be a Confederate. It's hard to get enough northern soldiers to have the battle. It's something about the Confederate soldier. He had a lot of swagger and a lot of gallantry, and that they want, It's kind of like when we were kids playing cowboys and Indians, except these are grown men, and
Yeah.
of course children. There's teenagers and young kids, 10, 11-year-old boys. You see a lot of them that are involved.
Uh-huh.
They really love it, and they fire cannon. They fire all the weapons. Everybody's period dressed. At most reenactments, you'll have a sutler's camp set up, which is basically it'd be tents set up, and they actually sell goods to the people, the spectators, and they'll have all sorts of. A lot of them are just arts and craft, but many of them are like Civil War reproductions and things like that. And you can walk through and you can look at it. It's just like a sutler's camp, which was basically a town for the soldiers.
Uh-huh.
That was set up during the Civil War. I mean, all the period dress, everything. And some of the ladies who come with the southern big hoop skirts and everything, they just take my breath away.
Amazing.
They're beautiful.
Amazing.
I mean,
Oh, let me tell you a little about this period dress he's talking about. One time I got into a situation with it. This lady, they were going to be in a reenactment. It's been 3 or 4 years ago, and I sewed some. She left this somewhere, and it never got done. She worked with my daughter, and she said, "Oh, well, my mother can do that."
yeah,
Well, she brings me this wool material in the summertime.
yeah.
Wool.
Yeah.
I cannot believe those men were out there in the summertime
They
in wool.
they were dressed in very heavy wool uniforms
Yes,
year
they were.
round.
Yes, a wool, scratchy and itchy wool. And buttonholes, everything was buttonholed and
Yep.
tied together.
No zippers.
No zippers, no zippers. And she said, "Now don't take this pair apart, but you can kind of go by there."
That's,
And she had ordered this material specially.
Oh,
It
yeah,
had to be
yeah.
just the right color.
There are textile
And
mills
then,
right now all over America who are making material that were used in Civil War clothing, whether it be civilian or military.
They
It's-
go
it's a
to
big
a
industry.
lot of trouble to make it authentic.
Yep, they
Make
sure
it
do. Oh,
authentic.
it's down to every stitch. A lot of people don't realize this, but until after the Civil War, I think about 1868, shoes had no right or left. Men's shoes, they were.
No, I didn't know that either.
They did not. If you ever go to a reenactment and you see people who are really period dressed, his left shoe will fit on the right or right will fit on the left. It's the same thing. But it's.
But it's wonder them guys don't have a heat stroke out
Oh,
there in
it
that wool.
really is. It really is.
Oh, it's horrible.
And I mean, I have actually put on Confederate tunic a time or two and the kepi and everything, and just standing there, fat boy like me sweats down real quick.
And just for public information, if you need one made, I'll recommend somebody else.
Well, there
Whew, honey,
are
that's
several
a job.
there are several companies out there who, matter of fact, there's a company at Corinth right now that ships Confederate uniforms all over. Well, yeah, northern uniforms too, all over America. There, a lot of people don't know about it. It's called Jernigan's up there. And they make Civil War clothing and work several people. I mean, it's a pretty big business in
Oh,
Corinth.
it's a job.
And
Wherever they charge, it ain't nothing.
but it has to be accurate. That's part of the
It's
rules of
got to be
the
just
reenactment
right.
associations.
Just
Everything
right.
has to be. I mean, it doesn't have to be an antique, but it has to be, a period perfect reproduction of it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so interesting.
I know she was very particular with these pants, and I'm just a sweating and a itching and a burning, and I was so glad when I got that last button.
I don't know about the ladies' clothes, but if you put on the men,
But
especially
that's
the
what the
soldiers,
man's pants.
you'll get a new respect for thinking about this man wearing this in July, and he's out there fighting,
Yeah,
and I'm standing here under a shade and I'm dying.
They wouldn't have to worry about getting
Yeah.
shot, just dying.
Just
of a
dying
heat
from heat stroke. It
That's
really is.
awful. I could believe that.
It is. I don't say. Well, I guess they were used to it. I mean, I mean.
I guess all of our wars have that problem to an
really do.
extent.
Really do.
I remember Carly Nance was on the program one time, and he said in the World War, more men suffered from frostbite on their feet
yeah.
than what got injured.
And in the Korean War, gosh, there was thousands of men who lost feet and toes to frostbite. And it
Now
was.
that's sad.
I mean,
That's
it's very sad. It really
yes.
is.
Yes, it is.
But our American soldiers have given so much.
They have.
A lot of people don't even realize what some of these people did. That's the reason when I see an old veteran, I've got respect for him. And if he's got something to say, I'm interested in it.
And when we see a young man go into Iraq, or after they say that's over, I hope it is.
I hope it is. But,
Truly, we don't know what those young men are going to go through.
well, our young men today who are fighting in Afghanistan, and like I say, I hope Iraq is over.
I do.
I think it was
do.
something that was necessary, we had to do, but I'm glad we're through with it. And I hope we can get our men out of Iraq safely. I met a young man over the weekend, I don't even know his name. We'd stop and talk, he was a young Marine. And I asked him, was he gonna be deployed, and he was off now, he'd just come out of his basic, and he was going back, and he said, I'm sure I will. And when I got through talking to him, I reached and got his hand and thanked him. Because if you see a vet, thank him, because he
Doesn't matter which
he's the
war.
reason you and I can sit here and talk on
That's
TV
right.
today and not have somebody, we can say anything we want to. There's places out there that can't, and the
That's
reason we
right.
can do that is our boys, our men, put it on the line for it, I mean,
That's right.
they gave everything,
And no matter what war they were in, if it's the Civil War, and of course all those fellas are gone.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, these are their great-great-grandchildren
Yeah.
looking back. But then Vietnam, the World Wars,
Whatever.
Desert Storm, and I hope I'm not leaving one out, but I could. I'm not a
Yeah.
history person. And this Iraq, my grandson was in Afghanistan.
Oh, yeah.
And, any of our veterans, honey, we should have such a great honor for
Honor,
them.
respect.
They took such they went over there in such a sacrifice, and they, some of them came back here not able
Oh, yeah.
to stand or sit, or, it's, many of them, they say, gave this supreme sacrifice and died.
Yeah.
But now, honey, there's worse things than dying. Some of them came back here in such
Oh,
a
yeah.
shape they couldn't live.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, and you don't know what they've been through. And I'm like you, anytime I see a veteran, it doesn't
Honor
matter
him.
what war.
It don't matter
I
what war he
have
was in.
great honor for
It's
that
a
person.
great honor.
Great honor for
That man gave it all. I saw something a while back that really touched me, and sometimes I kind of break up when I start to talk about it.
I do too.
I saw Jeff Foxworthy and Ron White, and they were going through a military hospital somewhere. I don't remember where it was. But the thing that amazed me, here's these young men laying here, parts of their bodies missing, tubes running out of their
Yes.
throats,
Yes.
and they still would look at you and smile.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that takes something.
Oh, my grandson said he would go back.
Oh, yeah, most of them
yes.
would.
This is my country, and
Most
I would
of them
do it
would.
again.
I mean,
I'd go back.
Well, that's the very reason this country, I don't think our country, I've heard people talk about they're gonna take over our country, and they're gonna, I can't believe they ever will, for one reason, that American spirit. Our country was born in blood. It was born on Christian Judeo beliefs and blood. People believed in it. I have a little bumper sticker on the back of my truck, and it says, God, guns, and guts. It made America free. Let's keep all three. And I believe as long as we have those beliefs, this country will always stay strong. Because we've got people that no matter what happens, no matter what the danger, they'll step up and say, okay, I'm here. And, you can't beat that.
No, I tell you what, I've never been anywhere but America, but I don't wanna go.
Yeah, it's not, it's
I
not
just don't
any
wanna
better.
go.
I don't think there's a place better anywhere. I hear people talk about America, man, this is awful, but if you look what's really around this world and the way people have to live, be proud we're Americans, because, and
That's right.
be proud you were born in America. And, because, man, we're the greatest country, the best country in the world. Right now, we're going through some hard times, especially economically.
Yes, we are.
But we'll come
We are.
through it, we'll stand up, and we'll take back over again. And it's just a matter of time. It's not
You
the
know-
first time we've had hard times.
What people don't understand about this bad I mean, it is crummy.
It's
Oh,
terrible.
you go to the grocery store, it's terrible.
It's terrible.
But truthfully, it's just not just in America.
Oh, no, it's all
It's
over.
worldwide.
It's a global thing.
It's everywhere.
It really is.
And the countries are blaming each other,
Yeah.
but truly, it's everywhere.
Well, when people.
It wouldn't be any
when-
better anywhere
When
else.
people decide to quit blaming one another, and they come together and they work together, then we'll pick up again, and it will happen. I mean, we've had bad times in America before. It's not. I mean, this is nowhere close as bad as it was in the Great Depression. I mean, that started in 1929, and really a lot of people officially they say 1932. But I can remember my dad talking about things up until World War II started, how hard times were.
It was hard.
And
It was.
he was like
The
Alabama
depression,
said in their
yes.
song, somebody said the stock market fell, but we were so poor we couldn't tell. And that's the way most people were.
That's
But people lived through it. They got tough. They helped each other. They loved one another, and love one another. It's just
That's right.
it's we need to do more of it. I can remember when I was a kid. My grandfather was a farmer. And that's where we moved down here. And my mom and dad worked. My dad worked. He was a production manager for Welch Piano and Organ. My mom worked for ITT, and I lived on the farm with my granddad during the day. And people would come over and visit. I mean, they were all farmers, and when the crop was laid by, people don't do that anymore. But we need to get back to that old way. We need to go back to our old heritage and start visiting one another, checking up on one another, helping each other, and loving one another. And when we do that, we'll be strong again.
I think John Deere messed us up.
It could happen.
Used to they all work together.
They did.
They all
did.
eat
They did.
together.
They
All
did.
now when the kids hit the teenage age, it's gone.
They really are. They really are.
And back then they were coming out of the field. They're too tired to go
Growing
anywhere.
up in the late 50s and early 60s, I can remember, a farm, an average farm, if a man had 50 acres, that was a big farm,
Yeah, it
and
was.
they made a
It
good
was.
living with it.
It was, yes.
Today, a farmer has to have 2,000-3,000 acres
Oh,
just to get by.
yeah, and
But-
a lot of machines.
Yeah,
lot
but
of
in
machines.
those days, I can remember my grandfather and neighbors shared things. One of the biggest thrills of my life when I was a little kid was hog killing day. Everybody in the community came to my granddaddy's house and they would kill hogs. They'd put those hogs, dress them, and tomorrow we're going over somebody's, about a week of it. We would go to somebody's house every day. And the big thing was if you had fresh tenderloin for dinner, man, they had done good. But people don't,
Yeah.
if you ask somebody today to help you kill a hog, I don't know what they would do.
I said,
I don't know
well, he
if
said, I
anybody
hold the
know how.
flashlight. I hold the flashlight. That's something in our house, every time something's done, we'll say, Tate, you go do it. Let me hold the light.
Hold the light.
Hold the light.
And if you're like my wife is, when she's holding the light, if she happens
It's
to look off,
wiggling.
if she happens to look off, the light goes with her.
Us women, we're a great
And
help.
I
Y'all
know,
just don't
man.
know how to appreciate us.
I'll tell you what, though.
We hold the light.
I don't know what we'd do without you, though.
We just hold the light. Oh, man. I tell you, this has been so good.
I really enjoyed it. I really have.
I have too. And y'all truly, times are hard, we know they are.
Oh, yeah.
But truth of the matter, they're hard everywhere. They really are. And I'd love to see a coming together, people to begin to work together
It's true.
to get this behind us, and I
Sure.
believe it can start
Oh,
with
we're going to do it. I mean, we're going to do it. We just, matter of fact, I think it's already started. I think people are starting to say, okay, nobody's going to do this for me. I've got to stand up and do it. And if that's that's what we got to do. We got to do it ourselves. Do it for one another and help each other. Man, we'll be back on it. Before we go, I would like to say, if anybody out there wants to come to one of our SCV meetings, first Thursday night and every month at Country Inn 2, come and be with us. You don't have to be a member. You don't have to join if you come. It's not anything like that. Nobody will even ask you to. But if you'd like to be and you do have a Confederate ancestor, we would love to have you. But if you don't have a Confederate ancestor, if you'd just like to come, associate with us, come and have supper with us, 6 o'clock, come to eat, or come at 7 for the meeting. We'd love to have everybody.
Well, what do you do if somebody wanders in from the north?
Oh, we've got an associate member who's from the north. We really do.
I wondered
He can't,
about that.
he can't be a member, but we do have a program where we can make him an associate member. And the only thing is, they do everything. The only thing they can't do is vote on any business, but they can be there for all the other benefits of it. We have a couple of people who are darn Yankees. I mean, but they love to study the history of it mainly, and they'll be there for every meeting, and they'll be there for anything we need to do, any project we get up. And before we couldn't do that, and we changed that this year. We changed our bylaws where we could anybody doesn't even have to be an American person. I mean, any immigrant. If you were born in England, you can still be an associate member of our camp if you'd like to be. And you get all the same benefits. The rest of it, the only thing you can't do is vote on business, and really, we don't vote on that much business anyway.
So if you enjoy war history, it doesn't matter. Like he said, even if you're from the north.
Yep.
I run up on Ken Lynch as I was leaving
Yep.
the other night, and he
Ken's
said,
son was just inducted as one
Oh,
of our
isn't he wonderful?
newest members recently, and I was so proud of that. It was
Isn't he
just,
great?
it really is.
and he said, what'd you think? I said, I think I better get out of here when they find out I'm from the north.
No, you were more than welcome.
He said,
to that.
no, that's
No,
okay.
that's not the way
I
it
said,
is.
no, I seen a gun in there.
That's we welcome everybody. We love to have everybody. We tell everybody, if not just men. I mean, it is sons of Confederate veterans. My wife's at every meeting. There's a lot of wives, a lot of children that will be there. I mean, you were there the other night. We had a packed house. We probably had 125 people, at least that much. I think we've got. I think we've had a few more than that once or twice. We've grown the last 2 or 3 years from about 20 members to where we are, and it's we're so proud of it.
Well, I was born in the north, but I was raised
Well, you're
in
welcome.
the south.
You're welcome anytime.
I was raised
to,
in the south and proud of it.
But I've always heard one of the scariest things in the world was a Yankee with a U-Haul headed south.
That's us.
But
That's
but
us.
we welcome anybody. We really do.
Oh,
And
we
I
have just enjoyed so
I have
much
too.
your
I really
coming.
have.
Appreciate it so much.
I really have.
Y'all, we've enjoyed this hour together. Don't forget the Jeter Family Program, Saturday night at 7. Y'all stay tuned now for Ron and Dave's Gospel Hour. I do hope you'll tune us again next Monday at 7 o'clock for Daryl's Corner. May God